Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has furiously rounded on Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney, obviously Macron of France and Carney of Canada, saying that they are on the wrong side of humanity. He is furious after the shooting of two young Jewish people, a Jewish couple in Washington, by someone shouting "Free Palestine." He's essentially accusing these Western liberals of fueling that kind of hatred, and he believes that that Britain and these other countries should be on Israel's side. Of course, Philip, we saw David Lammy in all his pomp, in a real fury yesterday in the Commons, denouncing the horror of what's going on and saying that unless Israel started letting aid in to Gaza, that Britain would start imposing serious sanctions on Israel. Now, the reason that Israel isn't letting aid in is twofold. One, lest we forget, there's still the little matter of 50 hostages that Hamas will not release. Until they release those hostages, I think Israel is justified in continuing this conflict. And the other reason they don't let aid in is because when it gets in, what happens is Hamas nick it and they start selling it. They apparently sell it across the border to Egyptians and Jordanians, among others. So that's what's going on. Netanyahu basically saying, these kind of shootings in Washington are your fault, Starmer. There's no love lost between Israel and their old ally Britain at the moment, is there?
No, I mean, David Lammy essentially sided with Hamas. If you are punishing Israel in this conflict, then you are siding with a prescribed terror group, OK? It's as simple as that. If you characterize Jews as settler colonialists, if you say that their suffering is somehow less historically than anybody else's, if you say they own the media, if you say they've got very powerful lobby groups, you are anti-Semitic, and Keir Starmer's government is absolutely behind all of those anti-Semitic tropes. And David Lammy is coming out and turning all of that kind of thing into policy. Let's not forget, October the 7th, 1,200 people murdered, maimed, raped, brutally, the most brutal pogrom, OK? And it's just so emotional, this, for me, because my partner is Israeli. And so all of that stuff is happening, and yet who's to blame somehow? It's the Jews who are to blame. The Jews who are to blame for their own victimhood, and they're the only people. They're the only people. If it were any other minority, if it was any other religion, of course everybody would be behind them, and rightly so. But because it's Jews, Jews are different. And if you know, Syria, Yemen, all of those places, no Jews, no news.
Left-wingers don't like Jews.
Left-wingers don't like Jews.
They don't like Jews. It's as simple as that. So I give you Jeremy Corbyn, and frankly, I give you David Lammy as well. My God, was he enthusiastic about his condemnation of Israel. After October the 7th, both him and Starmer, basically it was like, yeah, well, we stand with Israel. You know, their right to defend them. So that was about it. I mean, the correct sentiments, I'll give them that. But right now they're in condemning Israel mode. Their effusiveness knows no bounds. They're loving this. And Netanyahu has noted that, and he's sick to death of it. And I think I am too, and I sense you are, Philip, as well. Let's move on very quickly. I haven't got too much time. We've obviously had to squeeze things into this hour because of that interview with Raymond Connolly earlier. Keir Starmer, we're going to talk about his deal to give away the Chagos later on in the show. So his negotiation skills exposed so blatantly with that ridiculous deal he did with the EU earlier in the week. Look, my Brexit reset. Well, what's he done? What he did there was he's agreed for us, Britain, to once again give Brussels billions of pounds for the privilege of taking their rules, being bossed around by their millions of diktats, rules and regulations. They love regulations in Brussels. Hopeless deal. We got nothing back. I don't know why he did it. Millions share my horror at that. And that was, of course, Brexit betrayal, a betrayal of the 17.4 million people who voted to leave the EU. Keir Starmer doesn't like that, so he decided to take us back in. We've rejoined, only now we don't have a vote.
Yeah.
That's great, isn't it? So we are literally now just a rule taker, and we're not allowed to be a rule maker. Brilliant. Now, the other deal he did, the Chagos Islands, is pathetic as well, but we'll talk about that later. What I wanted to talk to you about, Philip, is the deal he's done quietly with the World Health Organization. He signed a contract, this gormless globalist, for that is what he is. He signed a contract giving the China-friendly World Health Organization the power to recommend lockdowns in the event of another sort of COVID-style crisis. In other words, in his world, he wants us to take WHO instructions again. Now, they were disastrous last time, and what I can't understand, I mean, apart from the fact I wouldn't touch the World Health Organization with a barge pole, what I can't understand is the way our body politic, including Starmer, cannot accept what is obviously the truth. Lockdowns don't work.
Well, I was just thinking what you were saying before. He's a globalist, and of course we get these terrible deals before we go onto the World Health Organization. We get these terrible deals because he doesn't like Britain. He can't. You can't negotiate for something you don't actually like when you're against someone who you love. You know, so that's one thing. If you think back to the lockdowns of the COVID era, they did so much incredible damage, especially to children. We don't know yet the full ramifications.
Well, we're still suffering. We're suffering economically.
Exactly.
We're suffering culturally. We're suffering educationally. Kids, I say, a generation of kids were abandoned. The COVID crisis, it isn't the COVID crisis that left this country in such a mess. And in fact, the world, it was the policies that the then gormless government imposed on us. I could give you what the COVID inquiry, by the way, COVID inquiry, the estimations of what that costs, that pointless inquiry, that endless, pointless, packed with pompous lawyers inquiry, estimates of how much it's costing range between £145,000 a day and £300,000 a day. £300,000 a day. This is what it should conclude. I could do it now. We massively overreacted at a not particularly lethal virus. The lockdowns were a disaster, and we must never do that again. There you go.
Absolutely. And never in my lifetime had I ever come across anything like that before. As I said before, we don't know the ramifications of this. We don't know what it's done to children. We don't know what it's done to socialising. People don't connect anymore in the same way that we used to. It was a different world before lockdown. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's got everything to do with how we responded to it.
Absolutely, exactly right. It's the policies. Nothing COVID wasn't it? It was the policies that we responded to COVID with that did the damage. So it's the fault of our half-wit politicians. It really, really is. And you know, I saw Boris Johnson yesterday in the Mail screaming away about, you know, Starmer's Stasi Britain. He's turning this country into a police state. Well, I felt like saying, well, Boris, you started it, mate. It recalibrated our attitude to law and order, and suddenly governments thought it was okay for the police to go around arresting people for what they said.
It legitimated the fascist state, didn't it? It tried to legitimate authoritarian law and order, and that's the left, actually. It's not so much to the right, it's the left. That's what the left want to do. Big government, they want to control people. They want to control what people think. It's really frightening. And the World Health Organization, possibly the most sinister organization, if they are essentially working the government like puppets, then that is really frightening.
And that's what Keir Starmer has just signed us up to. So in 1 week, the Brexit reset disaster, the Brexit betrayal, he signed that. And by the way, you know, I keep repeating this analogy somebody made to me. It's really accurate. He had a press conference, staged a press conference the night before saying, I'm definitely going to sign this deal.
Yeah.
And then he went into negotiations. It's like going into a second-hand car dealers and say, before you try to sell me any of these old rickety cars, I just want to tell you, I'm definitely going to buy one.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
And France wanted 10 years, and they came out with 12.
We were under the assumption that we were going to get a four-year fishing extension, and when Ursula and the gang sat down and said we want 12 years, and Keir just went, yeah, fine. So we had the Brexit deal, the Chagos deal, and the World Health Organization deal in one single week. That gormless, globalist, lying idiot Keir Starmer sold this country right down the river. It's brilliant, isn't it?
And the more of this stuff he does, the more we see, the better it is. People should be really alarmed. People should be frightened. People should be angry. You've got to change. We've got to vote these people out. I know people are disillusioned with democracy. They're disillusioned with the system. Fair enough, but it's the system we've got. We need to get rid of this.
Yeah, we've got 4 years, but don't forget to make the right vote at the next election.